Hey everybody, this is Danielle Miller with the Empower Brand Show, and I want to welcome you to today's show. Of course, being Google Plus being the rather finicky platform that it is, we cannot actually see my very special guest today, but we can hear her, so we're going to go ahead and do the hangout anyway, and hopefully maybe at some point in time her beautiful face will pop onto the screen so we can actually see her. But today my very, very special guest is Pam Slim. Pam has been a mentor, a colleague, and a friend of mine for several years. I think that I have probably taken pretty much every program, class, coaching, certification course that she has offered because I greatly respect her and her wisdom and her experience. And she is the author of 2 books, Escape from Cubicle Nation, and her most recent one is called Body of Work, which we're going to talk a lot about that today. She's also a very dynamic and very inspirational speaker. She has spent the first 10 years of her solo practice as a consultant to large corporations before she moved into her very famous blog, Escape from Cubicle Nation, that garnered a very, very large following of entrepreneurs and those who are working on the side hustle. She is also coached thousands of entrepreneurs and startups and getting their businesses off the ground. She lives in Arizona with her husband and 2 extremely adorable children who I know are the light of her life, and that's the reason that she does everything she does. So, Pam, thank you so much for joining me today. I so appreciate it. I do apologize for whatever technical glitches are going on.
Well, it's so awesome to be here, and it's no fault of yours. I'm actually in Silicon Valley, so I think I'm just going to go knock on Google's door and say, "What the heck, Google?"
Hey, that would be a great idea. You should have done the broadcast from there. That would have been perfect. Holy moly, we didn't even think of that. Then we would not have had any technical difficulties at all. So, first of all, I'm so delighted that you're here. I'm so appreciative. I know that your time is very precious and that you are extremely busy with all the different projects that you have going on around Body of Work and some other different things that you are branching out into. So I so appreciate you taking some time to talk with us today. But first I would like to ask you if you would tell us a little bit about your brand evolution.
Yeah, first I just want to say that I will always make time for you, any place, anywhere. So let's just get that really clear.
Well, thank you.
It's my pleasure to share time with you. Thank you. And so I think for my brand evolution, it's really an exciting time. You and I have had a lot of conversations about this because I really value your input around branding. And it's funny, just a few moments ago, I was driving down Page Mill Road in Palo Alto, and I drove past Hewlett-Packard, which was my very first client that I started with in 1996. I just celebrated 18 years of business. So it's a good way of thinking about the evolution of like being a fresh-faced 30-year-old, not knowing what the heck I was doing when I first started, consulting. And what I mean by that, I knew what I was doing for the topic in which I was consulting, but everything about business and branding and all of that was just so new. It was actually quite exciting because I had never done it. I had worked as an employee. But, for the first 10 years of my business, this is really before any social media or anything like that. My brand was really built through the relationships with the amazing people that I worked with within, all these different companies. And being here in Silicon Valley, what's so fun is I just was smiling as I was driving past buildings and remembering people that I worked with, and that, I think at its essence is always the core expression of your brand is really, how you operate and the kind of human relationships that you build. And then, of course, you hope that, as you go through time, the actual way that people know you through your brand, and now that we have social media, the way that we communicate online, really reflects that. Mm-hmm. So I think the early stages of my brand were really about, being excited about work, doing great work, building strong relationships, putting a focus on working with partners. Sometimes, for example, when I would be designing a big, global management training program or something for a company, but I always looked at that relationship that I had with my contact as also kind of a coaching relationship, right? Where I would be, really invested in their success and and interested and concerned about their life outside of the organization, and that's something I think that's really been a thread throughout my whole career. 2005 is when I started Escape from Cubicle Nation, which was my first foray into the online world, and that the intention there was to definitely connect with people who I had met throughout the 10 years consulting who just felt like they were, not in the right place and really wanted to work for themselves, had grown up in a corporate culture, and I spent a lot of time developing that brand. I just sent a message out to my list that I took a class with Suzanne Falter called Get Known Now, where I spent about 6 months, doing exercises and brainstorming and thinking of taglines and everything, and I finally landed on that brand, which has served me so well, right? It's just really been an amazing experience where people immediately smile, they connect to it. What's interesting now, and we can dig in more, to the kind of the current state of my brand, but now as I've really expanded and zoomed up and am interested in really working with the entire workforce, right? Not just people who are wanting to start, work in entrepreneurship. The brand communicates something which has actually never been true, which is that I'm anti-corporate. You hear Escape from Cubicle Nation, which I always saw as a bit tongue-in-cheek, and people can assume that my main mission is to just skewer corporations and encourage everybody to leave. And that's actually never been my mission whatsoever. So that's kind of the place I am right now, is in honoring and loving and appreciating everything I've done and I'm very proud of within that brand, but clarifying the fact that my passion is for people doing work that they love in the work mode that fits best for them, which can include some people who are really happy in corporate.
Right, exactly. I just want to say, I see in the comments, thank you, Cheryl. She said that Google has not been kind today, and that there are actually a couple other people who have had to reschedule shows because of some of the technical issues today. So I feel a little bit of relief that it's not me.
It's not us.
I feel like
it's to go shake up Google. I don't need to hang up from this call and go tell them that, or.
Well, I think you might want to, because we're really trying to push this Google. I love the Google Plus platform so much, and I really want them to get it right. So and David, I disabled the applause app, so hopefully those things will be happening. So I feel like every time I fix one little tiny glitch, another one pops up for me the next week. But that's okay. I'm okay with that. So but anyway, so I think it's really fascinating when you talk about building such an aligned and resonant brand on. I think people get stuck a lot of times on how they can take some of these different pieces, or how they somehow get boxed in certain areas, like you said, with the whole idea that you were anti-corporate, go away corporate. But that's not really the case. The case is really for finding work that fulfills you, that helps you feel autonomy and flow, whether that is in a corporate setting, a business setting, or a setting of your own choosing.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the feeling. It's interesting, about brands, and I'll say, Escape from Cubicle Nation has served me so well in connecting with exactly the kind of people who I wanted to connect with, right? During during the 9 years or so that I work specifically with entrepreneurs in the startup world, and that's many ways where that there is alignment with your brand, is not that just that it sounds snappy, but that it actually attracts the kind of people that are truly a gift to work with, and as you said earlier, you're one of them, you're one of the people that I've really had the gift to work with. So that's part of where I know that it has been really resonant, but it is a very interesting thing, and it's kind of a meta, issue and challenge, because one of the main themes that I have within Body of Work is, finding the thread that ties your story together. Is that one of the skills that we need to learn in the 21st century is how to tell compelling stories that actually include and celebrate the work that we've done, while still allowing ourselves to evolve. Right? Because we don't, I feel like I want to be evolving. I want to be, expanding. And where I know what work is that I want to go towards, it doesn't have to be choosing or just abandoning, completely one brand. But there's actually quite a bit of finesse in helping people to understand where, and this is something I always am very happy to talk to senior leaders in corporate about. There are some people in today's world with so many opportunities that people have to work for themselves that really do have that feeling where they want to escape, they don't want to work there, and that's okay. That's part of the nature of the way that work is. So we don't have to be afraid of it. We don't have to be afraid that people might be working on a side hustle because there's so much uncertainty in the work environment in general. There actually is so much more to celebrate and so much more we can bring when, for example, people may not even realize there's a senior leader in a company who's really concerned about creating more innovation within their company and bringing new products and services to bear and all these things. They might have somebody in their midst that they have no idea who's being very entrepreneurial and very creative and is doing these amazing things on the side that actually could be really helpful if they felt safe, to bring them into the work environment. And that's really one of the new missions that I feel is in helping to build these bridges between some amazing people that I know. As I said, being again in Silicon Valley, I get so excited, right? I'm going to LinkedIn this afternoon, to meet with folks there, and there's an energy, there's a momentum, there's a lot of people who are working in that environment who are totally excited about the big things that they're doing. At the same time, meeting with other newer, smaller entrepreneurs, there's all this energy and excitement that people feel about, starting businesses and doing things, on their own scale. So, I think that's the balance on the branding side, and I feel like it's the metaphor I keep thinking of is like when you're turning a really huge cruise ship as opposed to having a speedboat that you can just quickly, shift. I feel like I've been working on this brand shift for like the last 12 months. Eventually, ending with creating PamelaSlim.com, which is the site where I can really tell that broader story, about how my experience fits together. But then there's the matter of really just, the individual conversations and then creating a whole new body of content where people can understand, oh, I get it. Pam was doing this escape stuff, and now she's kind of moving in this new direction, and I see where the pieces fit together.
And I think that's a really great point about the pieces fitting together, because I think so many of us feel like there are, particularly those of us who are in the entrepreneurial space, we have so many interests and so many things that we would like to try, that we would like to experiment with, and how does that all fit together into sort of a cohesive personal brand, I think is a challenge that seems to be pervasive in this space. I don't know if you have seen that, and what do you suggest that people do in order to have some more cohesiveness?
Yeah, I definitely see it every day with people that I work with, and I see it myself. The way I look at it is really from a project perspective and looking at a particular period of time. And so in my cooking metaphor relates to one of the chapters in my book, which is about your ingredients, which is if you think about all the different skills and experiences and strengths and talents that you have. Imagine it's filling this cupboard with an amazing array of different spices, right? If you're anything like me, which I know you are, and people listening, you've had just all kinds of experiences that are just across the board, and some are like really unique and different from one another. So what sometimes people try to do when they're telling the story about themselves is just to dump all the spices in the pot, right? Like how can I work every single component about what it is that I've done into this one pot of stew that now I'm serving up. And of course it doesn't work, right? It doesn't taste good, not all the flavors go together. You want to be thinking about what actually, from a pragmatic perspective, if you're an entrepreneur, what are you selling this year? What are your main programs, right? What are your products? What are your services? And so, how is it that you're specifically building your brand within certain markets where you want to be stressing parts of your experience that are going to be the most relevant based on what your strategic initiatives are? That's the brand story that you have, strategically looking at the year moving forward. The difference from Escape from Cubicle Nation, which is a site that was very much intended for a broad audience of entrepreneurs, lots of resources and support. I was doing a lot of coaching, one-on-one coaching, and then had some programs for entrepreneurs. The main focus there was on the individual connections, right? Getting people to work with me individually as a coach. Now a strategic focus is on speaking. So you notice that on PamelaSlim.com, the main focus of the site is really about speaking, is looking at me, as a speaker, integrating the message around that. So that, I think, is what allows you to decide which of your ingredients, of your many skills, interests, strengths, do you want to highlight, because you are, again, for people who are entrepreneurs, you are wanting to tell a really cohesive story so that the people who you want to reach, your ideal customers at that point, will say, oh my gosh, this person is really the perfect person. I didn't know they had this experience in corporate, or I didn't know they were a martial artist, or that they were great bakers, or that they played the guitar. Like, for certain markets, you want to be highlighting different things. And I think that's the place where people get a little bit confused. It doesn't mean that you're not appreciating and celebrating the other parts of yourself, but that's where you have to be strategic, and I would say the same advice to somebody who's in a job, right? Maybe you want to get more responsibility, you want to get a promotion, and so the way in which you're communicating your skills and talents and really putting that package together is for a very similar objective, right? Who's your audience, and what do they need to hear about you in order to trust you and be excited by what you have to offer and feel confident in your skills?
Right. And I think that's exactly it too. Like you said, like who do you want to be talking to? And I think, that applies for, what I call the intrapreneurs, the people who do work in some sort of setting for someone else, but at the same time, they really want to clarify and define their values, and they want to figure out what their particular legacy is going to be, and what are the traits and the characteristics that they have to bring to the table. So like you said, so somebody who is involved in martial arts like you are, that takes a great deal of focus and determination and persistence. And those are the qualities, I think, that sort of will help you tie other things together that you want to be doing. When you can identify those, and when you can sort of identify that overarching theme, so for example, for myself, coming from a special education teaching background and working as a nursing assistant while I was putting myself through school, and then moving into the life coaching and career coaching, I found out that for me it was all about empowerment. Like, that's what my thing is. I want to empower other people, or I want to give them the tools to empower themselves.
Right.
So I think when you sort of can figure that piece of it out, it helps you. Like you say in your book, it's a thread that you can weave all your experiences together with.
Exactly, and the thing that's really unique about us is, depending upon the stage we are in our life and what our experience is. I mean, there are threads that we are not going to be able to see, for 10 or 15 years. Mm-hmm. Right? Because we haven't done, there's so much of, I love what a lot of people say about the world of work, like the jobs that are coming up for the next generation, right? For my kids, for your kids and grandkids, is like work that hasn't even been conceptualized or invented yet. We're all in a world that is going to have all kinds of new opportunities, some of which we can't imagine right now, right? That will be happening in the future. And so it's not that I think the contrast that I find between like the old world of work and the new world of work that relates to branding, especially personal branding, is that it's not like we just decide, this is my thing, like this is the way that I'm going to peg myself, this is the way, it's always going to be, and I just have to have everything to be consistent. Because work is dynamic, we're dynamic, right? We are going to change our interests, we're going to get certain insights. When I wrote my book, and I interviewed my dad, who is like a central story in the book, in Body of Work, my dad's 79 years old, and he was saying that after he read the book, he got insight into himself and his threads and how he worked and everything that he never had thought about before, or he never had seen where they connected together. I got insight about him through the experience of talking with him, that where I saw threads that I had never seen before. So I think the important thing to realize, sometimes we love magic bullets, don't we? What the heck? I
Oh,
don't know why
yeah.
we're so just in love with magic bullets. Like, once I figure out and just nail that brand, then that's it. You know, I'm
That's
just
right.
set for life, and I have the perfect URL and the brand name and everything. You know,
I'll take this perfect marketing program, and it will immediately catapult me into the stratosphere.
that's right. You know, and
Yeah.
again, like you can put the effort and energy into creating something that serves you well. Like, you know, for Escape from Cubicle Nation, that served me extremely well for 9 years, right? It brought a book, it brought many of hundreds of amazing clients, you know, and it had an amazing life. And so you can and should be putting the energy into being very thoughtful about your brand when you have these particular career or business objectives. But the point is, it doesn't mean that that's what's going to have to define you for the rest of your life, right? Or once you find the threads that, you know, have run through your body of work so far, that it means that you can't be doing other things in the future. The responsibility that we all have, I do feel very strongly about, is in taking responsibility for telling the story about what is going on with you right now, right? If you have 5 different websites with different interests and skills, and you have different links on your different profiles, and even your family and your best friends are like, well, Danielle's awesome, I don't really know what she does, like, I don't know, it's this whole, like, whatever mishmash of things, then that ends up being something that's going to be problematic for you if you have particular goals and objectives, right? People need to know for right now, or maybe the next year or two, like, this is your focus, and this is who you want to serve, and you know, that way they can help to get the word out about you.
Yeah, and I think that's so critical. And I know, actually, you know, working with you, you have helped me do that tremendously. And I want to touch on something else, though, that I think is really important around this, the whole concept of building your body of work and a aligned and resonant brand. And it's something that you talk about in the book that I'm really fascinated with, and you call it success dysmorphia. Because I think it, particularly when you start to go about building and designing and crafting, you know, this strong personal brand that you want to do naturally and from the inside out, you have a natural inclination to start comparing yourself with other people that may be in the space you're in. And so I want you to talk about that a little bit, because I find it's fascinating.
Yeah, it started as a blog post, actually, that I ended up working into the book, because I was having a conversation with my friend Eric Prue, who's an amazing filmmaker, and he's done a couple films, Lemonade and Lemonade Detroit, about people who have really remade their lives, right? Made lemonade out of lemons. And you know, he was just doing amazing things, a big crowdfunding campaign, and you know, I was working really hard and doing programs, and we were just having a call, you know, one day, just talking to each other, and we just started to get into comparing, like, oh, you know, yeah, it's cool what I'm doing, but oh my God, have you seen what so-and-so's doing? And like, wow, they're like really got it together. And then all of a sudden I was like, what are we doing exactly? Like, what is it about, you know, always looking to somebody else, you know, in their model of success, without really stopping and celebrating what it is that we're actually doing ourselves? And I think that it's a very insidious thing, especially in the online world, where it's not necessarily by design. I don't think people sit back thinking, like, how can I craft the perfect online presence where I only show, you know, the very best of my life? Because, you know, you don't want to be always whining and complaining, you know. I mean, if you post a picture of yourself, you usually want to post the one where you look kind of good and the light catches you right, you know, you have a cute dress on or whatever. So it makes sense that you want to be putting forward a positive presence, but what it can mean sometimes is that people figure just getting the highlights of your life, that things are really, you know, easy or perfect or whatever. And it's just, I've met so many very successful in all ways, right? Rich, famous, you know, etc. People that seem to have it all together. And at the core, it doesn't mean on a day-to-day basis that their life is necessarily easier, that the emotions that they face are not as challenging as what it is that I have, you know, in my life. And often being in that state of constantly comparing yourself, you really get out of the zone of your own mastery, of appreciating your own life, of, you know, like, appreciating the simple things you have, like, you know, the love of your family, and of, you know, of your home, no matter what size it is or, scope or anything. It's like when you really just start to embrace and have gratitude for and appreciate the life that you have and that work that you do, that gets you in the zone of really being focused on what is that work that I'm creating? How am I really serving my clients, right? Not how many more programs at a more expensive price did somebody else sell, right? Or how cute and sexy do they look on video, but rather, what is the work that I'm doing? And what I found is really neat, and thank God that we get older, Thank God.
Oh, yes.
Oh, God. I'm so excited for my 50s. I'm 48 now. I'm like, oh, this is awesome.
Because I know. I can't wait either. I'm going to beat you there because I'm going to be 50 in February.
Isn't that fantastic? My husband is too. That's great. February as well. But, it's like now I've gotten to a point which I can say honestly that I wasn't necessarily at before, where I can look at somebody who's really doing amazing things, who's, very successful in whatever ways that I think are cool, and I can feel absolute excitement and gratitude and support, for that person without having to feel like I am less than, right? It's more like I'm awesome in my own way, and I'm appreciative for what I have, and I have a plan for, moving forward, and I'm proud of how I do work, and I know the areas where I want to improve, and I totally celebrate and support how somebody else is at a different stage of the journey and they're really doing awesome work. And like that to me is not just emotional peace, but it also ends up creating this really wonderful ecosystem where we can really be supportive and encouraging of each other. It's not like, oh man, that person is like, they're successful and you kind of have a resentment for it,
Right. Or yeah, you feel like you said less than because you see somebody maybe doing the things that you would like to be doing or having the experiences that you would like to be having, and rather than feeling the resentment towards that, if you can reframe it to the perspective, well, if it's possible for them, it's possible for me too. And I think, exactly. That's pretty awesome.
Which again, and the other funny thing is, right, sometimes when you really get to know what it takes to operate at a certain level, or maybe a perspective that one person has about the way that they run their business, sometimes you end up deciding that, I actually enjoy the way that my business is running, and this might actually be the right size for me and how I operate. And this, again, is something I've seen of, like, it's been the great, huge benefit of, like, peeking behind the curtains of, great companies, large, medium, and small, is that there is always challenge behind the curtains. There's no perfect scenario. And sometimes in order to get to a certain level of, prestige, like, sometimes with fame or notoriety, there comes a huge increase in personal attacks and, judgment and like other things that we don't like to think about when we're just looking at somebody else like, oh man, she sold 1 million copies of her book, that must be awesome. Well, it is awesome, but is that actually what you want? Do you want everything that comes with that particular experience?
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I think it is so key to people figuring out and defining what success means to them and what it looks like for them, because again, in the online space, that whole 6 and 7 figure model is rampant everywhere. But at the same time, have you really thought about what that entails and what that looks like and what the level, the amount of work that's involved and the amount of energy, and is that something that you want for your life? Maybe not necessarily. So I think that's so critical to that empowerment piece and that resonant brand piece that we've been talking about. So I want to ask you, how do you define success?
My basic definition is that I want to enjoy my life while I am living it. Is my basic definition of success. So what ends up rolling up in that is that I enjoy my life when I am doing work that I believe in, with people whom I truly enjoy supporting, where I'm in a role that I feel like I can really be successful, so I have the right skills and strengths in order to help the people, that I want to help, and that I am able to, in the words of our mutual friend Michelle Woodward, I'm able to really devote the attention and energy to my priorities. And to me, my priorities now I'm sure forever, because I'll always love my kids, but now especially when they're 9 and 6, is in being a present parent, not being somebody who's massively stressed out, not somebody who's just constantly working, but, having the scale and scope of business that allows me to be an engaged, happy, healthy, relaxed parent, so it's just a good, it's a good basic indicator, because I know it right away if I start to slip into a stage where, I'm overwhelmed or I'm working on a project that ends up not, being a good fit, is where I just start to notice that, I'm just not enjoying myself. I'm not, my nature is to wake up and be just totally excited, about the work that I'm doing and feel sometimes tears of gratitude. I know you've experienced that, right? You have a coaching call or, with somebody and you're just like, God, that is like, what a privilege to do this work. Like, how amazing is it to be able to have these conversations for a living? And whereas, of course, there's challenges that come with doing work and creating programs and everything, but it can still be in that zone of, feeling like it's so worth it. The effort and the energy is so worth it because I believe in what it is that I'm doing, and I believe in the people who I'm working with.
Right. So I want you to talk just a little bit about what you have going on right now, because I see this term going around in your space of being indispensable. And I'm fascinated by that because I think right now we have been trained in this thought process that nobody is indispensable, given today's economy and given today's nature of the workplace. So what does that mean?
Yeah, this is something I'm so excited about, and yes, it's like today I'm closing registration for a brand new program. So I've been, talk about working a lot. Actually, my assistant Sheila is the one who's really been working a lot. So she's the one that earns most of the props.
Sheila's awesome.
Right, but after writing Body of Work, one of the main missions that I had was figuring out the skills that are outlined in the book in Body of Work are the skills that I think are going to make us indispensable. And by this, I don't mean indispensable where your market's never going to go away or you'll never get laid off or fired or anything, but that you actually will have the qualities of somebody who consistently and continually can get work, right? Can have access to great work, will be the kind of person, in your network that people appreciate and value and trust. You're the kind of person who can go through challenging experiences and maintain a great sense of identity and, have gratitude for what you're doing, and who knows how to pivot and is the kind of person who, it's like one door closes and you grieve for a day or two and then you're like, I know actually what it takes in order to figure out, a way to move forward. And it's a huge passion that I have, if people are able to develop these skills because the world is inherently uncertain and volatile. We have to be indispensable ourselves. We have to be practicing things in a certain way that gives us that security of knowing that no matter what happens, I will be able to land on my feet. I have a network of people who love and care for me. I actively contribute to the well-being and of other people. I am really updating my skills. I don't have the expectation when I walk into a job or a consulting engagement or anything like that, that people are just going to, want my work and support me because of my name or what I've done in the past. I have to prove my worth every day. And I'm telling you, I live this every day. I hold myself to the same kind of standard. Some days I'm like, oh, Slim, like you totally missed the boat. You kind of sat down a little bit and got a little bit too relaxed and let some things slip. And so you have to be always kind of earning your trust. But I feel like the quality of people who are able to always make it through, right? Kind of not just make it through a situation and land on their feet, but maintain a sense of, excitement and positivity and, groundedness and balance, so that they know that, there's always opportunities to them. I mean, that's really what it is that I want. I want for everybody, within our economy. And it makes me worried if I see people who are putting all their eggs in one basket, assuming because they are in a certain network that it means that everything good's going to happen, or because they had a past success, or conversely, they may feel like they were very successful in their career and they get laid off and now they're doomed, right? There's no future for them. Everything is over. And
right.
my message is nothing's over, ever.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right. Yeah.
It's all about knowing how to, get back on the horse and make something new happen.
So do you believe like that, because this is something that I'm fascinated with, and that is resiliency. So do you believe that that can be cultivated, that can be almost a learned skill? Because I think that's a big part of it, right?
I think it's absolutely a learned skill. And it is, there's a mindset part of it, and the mindset is, which is not always an easy thing to really grasp, but the mindset is, you know what, things are going to change, that things are unstable. If things are good right now, I appreciate it, but I can't necessarily assume that it's going to happen again. That's a mindset. The pragmatic piece of it are things that you do concretely, like really keeping your own skills up to date, always developing mastery, being very clear and conscious about the kind of network of people that you have around you, right, in order to have access to opportunities. And in the same regard, which I think is important, that you also act as the kind of person who's going to be supportive to your network, right? So if somebody goes through a bad patch, you want to be the kind of person who's like, let's talk about it, sit down, have coffee, what can we do? How can we kind of get you back to work? You've gone through a divorce, this is so painful and awful. What's a way that I can help you access, resources and support? And it's like you've said, I think we share the common value and interest in empowerment, in like many ways just reinforcing that belief that people have that they do have the capability inside, in order to recover from difficulty. But you can be self-reliant and you can be resilient. I have an ongoing mantra, which is still, though, that we all need each other. Like, even though you are a resilient person, we all need each other. We are all going to go through those completely unglued moments where we feel like everything is lost, and we're just totally out to sea. And that's when you need to have people around you who really care for you, who say, no, you're not. Things are bad now and the situation really sucks, but you have the capability to get back on the horse. And I just think that is one of the beautiful things about our connection with the internet in ways that we can communicate now than we did before. Some of my, most solid supporters and people who have been so kind and good to me are people that I've never even met in person before.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, the power of that. So what is the Indispensable Program about? What could somebody expect from that if they were interested in it?
What the program is basically going through all of the different skills. It's on one hand, it's a chance to do an in-depth analysis. I think about all of your wonderful work that you do around branding, right? For people to dig deep and define specifically, what are their roots, what are their beliefs and values, what are all the ingredients that they have to work with. And then to go through a specific, each module really hits on a particular topic where what they're building is what I call your indispensable plan, where you understand who you are and how you're wired. You define what are your projects for the next 12 months. You notice I'm obsessed as a business coach. You get annoyed by the fact, right, that I'm always making you work in quarters and always thinking about, all right, I know you have all these big plans, but what actually are your objectives in the next 12 months? And then how specifically do you need to build your network, right? And so for each module, we're actually building a real live plan that is, that gives people clarity about what are they working on, what are their career objectives or what are their business objectives, and getting them just crystal clear so that they have all the resources that they need in order to move it forward. And as I said, I think that it's a process of capacity building. Like going through the experience once for many people is, they haven't ever taken the time to really look at themselves and look at their experience and think about what they want. When they apply that to actually what they're working on in a 12-month period, then it just makes it very clear and defined and easy to act on. But actually, that capacity is one that you want to do on a consistent basis, right? So you revisit it, see what's changed, see what you want to focus on, and that's that part I think that is actually helping to build the skill set so that you can be flexible, and that you know how to reach out to people, how to define what success means to you, and all those other things.
Right. Wow. That sounds pretty awesome.
I'm excited.
Slim is at it again.
It's very exciting, that's for sure.
It sounds really, really neat. So where can people find you?
You can find me at PamelaSlim.com.
Mm-hmm.
As my 6-year-old says, she introduces me as PamelaSlim.com. Meet me online. I don't recall ever saying that, but apparently that's how she thinks I introduce myself. So you can meet me online there. And actually, probably the best way to get to know, what I mean by indispensable, I just did a TEDx talk for the wonderful people in Fargo, North Dakota. It was an amazing experience. So right on the homepage now of PamelaSlim.com is my TEDx talk if you want to get a deeper sense with a few stories about what I actually mean about being indispensable.
Awesome. I'm gonna drop that link in the chat then too, so people will have easy access to it. So I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. Like I said, I know that you're very busy with all the things that you have going on. Tell us one thing you're looking forward to.
Oh man, geez. I think what feels like right now is being on, having a transition in my brand of being able to embrace and kind of come back to my roots of not feeling like now I have access to be working with people in all different work modes. And now that I've defined, that kind of the foundation of indispensable, is a program, is something I'm running people through where we can have that community experience of what it's like. But now I also have the opportunity to be taking this message and the content and sharing it in different ways, right? Doing workshops in companies, using it in keynote speeches, building relationships with people in order to, increase the connections between people in different work modes. And it just feels like I'm, in the beginning of this brand new adventure, much like I felt when I started Escape from Cubicle Nation. And it's just very energizing and exciting. I don't know exactly, where it's going to end up, because just like I had no idea where it was going to end up when I started Escape. But it just feels like the right thing, and I'm working with the right kind of people and have the right kind of support, and I just feel very, very excited about it.
It's very exciting to kind of watch it unfold too, as I have been doing for the past several months. And it's really neat to see, and you can so get that vibe of energy and flow off of what you're doing right now. It's really cool.
Awesome.
Really cool. So I want to thank you so much for being my guest today. Despite the technical, wonderful Google Plus, you gave everybody so much great information and really just a wonderful conversation to have with you today. I'm so appreciative of it, and I want to thank you again for being my guest today.
Well, thanks for having me. As I said, I love to share time with you and with your wonderful community. So even though we didn't get video, at least we still got to have a conversation. It just means we have to do it again soon, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah, we go. Man, there are so many other things I really would have loved to have talked to you about. And Cheryl in the comments said, "Thank you so much for bringing Pam Slim. I could sit and listen to the two of you forever." So that is one of the highest compliments. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Yeah, awesome. So thank you again. I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for joining us on the Empower Brand Show, and I am looking forward to talking to you again really soon.
Likewise.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.